Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me on Create with Chris. Today, we're going to be doing something that's a lot different than normal. I think you're going to really enjoy it and kind of open up your artistic boundaries a little bit. So be prepared to let your hair hang down, and we're going to do some loose and fun painting. But most of all, we are going to be using the brand new 2024 DecoArt colors. They are absolutely stunning. Now let me go over the names. Starting from left to right: Tea Berry, Salted Caramel, Baby Duck, New Leaf, Mystic Teal, Stormy, Twilight, and Cherry Merlot. And I think the names are just absolutely fantastic for these colors. Hopefully I'll remember them. Today, manning the questions, I have with me Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay.
Hello.
So if you have any questions or comments, please type them in the comments and Lindsay will be right on it. So are you ready to get started? This is a piece that I created on a scrap of paper. And there we go. When I first did it, I just thought this would be my play piece and I wasn't planning to do anything in particular with it, but I really liked how it turned out. And it's very loose, very, just a lot of movement in here. And again, all I did was use exclusively the brand new colors. Now, I know last time when I painted the little jack-o'-lantern, someone asked about the background. So I'm going to be doing that as well with this one. Using the 3/4 inch oval wash, really like this brush. It's a very soft bristle and it gives a lot of movement without laying down a lot of heavy paint. I just have on this, I used a piece of heavy watercolor paper. I went ahead and did a board. This is the window insert for the door panel. So we do sell this piece separately. Just kind of a fun size to play around with. And then after I did it, I thought it would be really kind of cool to frame it. My motto, a little bit of paint goes a long way, and makes a big difference. So that's basically what we're doing today. I'm just going to be using a little bit of paint, lay it on there, and just kind of play around with it. Starting out with Stormy, which is the gorgeous blue color. And I'm working very quickly. This board has been sealed with a multi-purpose sealer, and then I put a coat of white on it just to give a base. You can see it's not perfect. However, with this background, it's very loose and it moves a lot. So I'm not looking for perfection. I'm going to squirt out a little bit of Mystic Teal, and I'm going to be working very quickly. And let's put a little bit of Twilight on there. And a touch of Cherry Merlot. Aren't those pretty? I kind of put those out of rainbow order, but I'm kind of a nerd about that. I like things to be in the proper order. Okay, so we have just a variety of these paints. My thought is to start a little bit lighter at the top, and then as I go down, just get a little bit, not heavier with the paint, but a little more intense in color. Loading my brush with water, and I'm just going to take and lay it on a paper towel just to lift some of that moisture out. Loading the Stormy color, in my brush. I'm working it in the bristles. And it's a little bit soupy. I'm just going to draw out a touch of that moisture. And then I'm going to start slip slapping. I'm using the flat of my brush, not the chisel. And I'm just going to move that paint around very loosely. If I want to keep a longer open time, I love the Distress sprayer. I can lightly mist it. It's just going to help that paint move around. I don't want any hard edges down here. And you can still see that design behind that is so thin. I can still see that design. Picking up some Mystic Teal. I start down a little way and work my way up so I can blend it together very softly, trying to avoid strong, heavy strokes. And pick a little more of that up. Blend it up. Once it starts to tack, you don't want to go back over it because you'll lift it up. You'll get some very open white spots. This is very free form. Picked up a little bit of, I'm learning these colors. Twilight. Lindsay has them memorized. And just work that in. I just want to get that gradation of color from one into the other one. And we're going to give that a quick dry.
Jen says that she is watching and stuffing Christmas unwrapped boxes as we speak, which go out Thursday.
Everybody, if you've not signed up for this, I think you're going to miss out on something really cool. This is a brand new program we just started. It is absolutely packed with all kinds of goodies. It's a yearly subscription. There are 4 different shipments during the year, and each one is going to be very unique. There's, Lindsay, I'm going to hand this over to you. Because you're
each box is going to come with 5 ornaments, and these ornaments are layered dimensional ornaments, meaning they have multiple pieces to them. Then there'll be a Chris Hoy Designs pattern with instructions for all 5 ornaments, and then you're going to get what we're calling the semi-pro pattern, which this month is done by our own Jen, and it's geared toward maybe someone that doesn't have as much painting experience, and you want to introduce them to your world of painting, your hobby. And there's instructions, basic instructions for that. And then there's some goodies in there, maybe a sweet treat if we don't eat them all. And every box will have at least that. So you're going to get like a free gift in it, a sweet treat of some sort, so it's really exciting. We're really looking forward to it.
If they're shipping, they would be shipping this week.
Yeah. Judy has a question.
Yes.
She says, when I'm floating, but the brush starts to drag and I need more water, not paint, do I wash the brush and start over?
If the paint has not walked across the chisel edge of your brush, just reload it or get a little more water. If it has gone all the way across the chisel edge and you need to get a clean brush, that's when you wash it. I rarely wash my brush unless the paint has transferred across the chisel edge. I'm using my number 10 Fantastic Filbert. If you're not familiar with my brushes, the flats and filberts all have a little more length on it. So I can paint a little bit longer before needing to reload. And this is not a perfect round shape, but I'm base coating these berries with salted caramel. And it's not a solid coverage, but if I put the tea berry, which is this gorgeous reddish pink, if I put that right on this darker background, it's not going to glow as much as I would like. So while I'm letting that dry, I had fun with this because I just went in and started adding some, I know this will kind of scare people. But I went in and just added some leafy shapes very loosely and with a little bit of control, but I kind of let the brush pretty much decide how the shape of the leaf is going to be. I should put this over, well, I can't really see that. We'll scoot that over and this over. I had trouble with this sliding around, so I put a little bit of tape on the back of it.
Okay, Judy says thanks, but how do I get more water without getting more paint? Does that make sense? Do I just dip the water part of the brush into water?
If you're using an angle, I just dip the toe into a little bit of water instead of the whole brush. And that way, that's going to just start to, or it will activate the paint. I can't talk in paint, obviously. It'll activate the paint and let it flow a little bit more easily.
And for those of you just joining us, welcome. Chris is doing a design with the new 2024 Americana colors.
You're going to love them because they're actually very pretty. This is a very loose application of paint. I'm not being real fussy. I'm using my number 5 Radical Round. I like this brush because it has a point on the end so I can get some really sharp strokes with it, but also it has a fat belly on it so I can create a lot of, cover a lot of area with it as well.
Judy said thank you. She's excited to get the Christmas box.
Oh yeah, you're going to love it.
We're excited for you to get them.
And I'm just going to let that kind of float out because I want to just create that indication of foliage back there. So I'm just I don't want any big open spaces, but I don't necessarily want it to be solid either. So I can still see that background through there.
Lisa says sometimes she'll put a few beads of water on her palette to dip into. Just a suggestion.
That's a great idea if you want to just have like a bubble of water on your palette. That definitely will help move the paint and keep that moisture on there. Recognizing that you need more moisture on your brush is probably the biggest issue with floating that people kind of aren't aware of. This is Tea Berry, and I tell you what, this might be my new favorite color. It's just really a pretty color. And sometimes with red, and this isn't really a red, it's kind of a deep, rich coral. Would you say coral, Lindsay?
Yeah. And I don't like pinky colors, and I love this one.
It's so pretty.
It's so different.
I think this could generate a neon effect, and I'm wondering how it would look with like the red colors as a highlight. Don't you think that would be pretty?
And it comes by its name, honestly, because we did Google the tea berry. And it looks it's like the perfect color.
Well, it was kind of funny because when we first got the paint, I asked Lindsay what the name of this color was, and she said tea berry. And I said, tea berry? That doesn't sound like it should be this color. So she sent me a picture of it, which is actually the inspiration for this design. I thought, I'll paint some berries and see what they look like. Okay, so I'm going to go in here with a little bit of this. I have to turn these around. Mystic Teal. And I'm going to grab a little bit of that purple.
Cherry Merlot.
Cherry Merlot, sorry. And I'm just going to put some little bit of design back there. Told you it's going to be very loose. A little bit of, I like mixing colors. You can come out with some really beautiful colors when you mix them. And unusual colors. this was just, when I did it, I didn't have a design or a pattern in mind. I just thought I would paint, kind of put those colors in there. And yeah, it looks kind of messy. This is that ugly stage, and you're going, oh my gosh, what did I do? Let's put a little bit of that. I want that background to be just a little more intense, not quite so empty. I want a lot of movement in there. So I can add this in there and just get some real interesting effects. And I do use a little bit of paint. If I have a hard edge, I can go in there and soften it down, and that's going to work fine. I think these berries are quite dry, so I'm going to hit them with a little bit of heat just to dry them up. Now you can see on these berries there's darkness around the outer edge where that green is kind of overlapped. I'm okay with that. I'm going to add a little bit of baby duck. Do. Okay, so they've got this thing and it's running through my mind. I'm just going to share it because I like to, it's driving me crazy and I wouldn't want to be the only one. So whenever baby duck is said, they do the baby shark theme song with it.
Except we use duck.
Yeah, instead of baby shark, it's baby duck. Do.
We do that with a lot of paint colors.
Yeah.
Like Purple Rain. Every time someone orders Purple Rain, we sing the Prince song. We have fun with it.
Nobody gets bored. Okay, I'm just kind of splashing a little bit of highlight with baby duck. Okay. You'll never look at this color the same.
You're welcome.
Is that not the most adorable name you ever heard for yellow paint? And nobody has any doubt of what color it is. We all know what baby ducks look like. Just splashing a little bit of highlight, taking the toe of my brush, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. Just splashing that around, getting that highlight on there. Using the clean part of my brush to kind of soften that down. I'll wipe my brush off a little too strong on the paint. And I'm just keeping that toe in the center, not real fussy about that. This is a loose painting, so don't try to do that smooth, perfect shading and floating stuff. This is going to be totally different. Okay, let's go into, get some of this green leaf. And I'm going to sharpen up some of these leaves just a little bit. Well, actually, let's not do that yet. Let's go with, when I did these leaves, I thought I put some red on them. So I took a little bit of the red and I thought it would be fun just to kind of put a little bit of red on the side of it, but it really looked kind of icky. So then I went back and I just decided I would float just a touch of red on some of those leaves just to add a little bit of color on there. Didn't want to be too particularly fussy with it. I wanted to keep that very kind of, just let the brush create that work. That one, and if they get too strong, I can always go back and lighten the color. This one's a little bit too intense. I'm okay with that. You know, a lot of times you just see what the brush does, and I know that's kind of scary, but allowing the brush to kind of create the colors and just a little bit of reflection from these berries is kind of interesting. I can go back, that's still wet, so I can go back and kind of, maybe I'll put one there. Little bit of baby duck, and I can see how that's starting to create that leaf. Think, okay, there might be hope for this yet.
And you've managed to use all 8 colors.
All 8 colors, yep. I'll keep these back here just a little more subtle. This one I want to be. a little bit stronger. Now I'm still using just a little bit of paint because I'm just not real sure. You can go back and always add more. So I'm not sure this is what I want. So if I just add a little bit, when I go back to add more, I can kind of keep an eye on, and you know what looks good and what doesn't look good. We're starting to get leafy colors. I am going to put one right here in the middle, and I'll do that shortly. My light is coming from this side, so just loosely letting that paint create that rough edge of the leaf. I don't like a smooth leaf. I think it has more personality if it is a little bit looser. Is that a good word for it? This is my 1/2 inch awesome angle. The same with all my brushes. There's a little more length in the bristle, which allows me a little more stroke time. Picking up Twilight. Twilight is that beautiful kind of a purpley blue. And a little bit. And I'm going to start putting some shading right along the bottom of these berries. My hand's getting in that. It's a little bit strong. I'm going to tone it down a little bit. I've just got a little more water on my brush, kind of tapping that off. And I'm going to float that in there to create that little bit of shading along the bottom and the right side. Always go back and add a little more. I'm going to switch colors on you. I'm going to go with Cherry Merlot. I'm going to start with that one. Now, that one's a softer transition between the tea berry and doesn't that look beautiful with that? Oh my gosh, the tea berry and the twilight. So I'm going to put this on, and then I can go back and add a little bit more of that shading. Not too fussy about the outer edges because I'm going to go back. Remember this spot here that was showing from the background? It's going to disappear with the shading. So I could spend a lot of time fussing with these imperfections in the beginning, but I'm going to wait until I'm finished and see if they really show. Does that make sense? That way you don't have to spend all your time fussing with the little stuff. It's like getting down to the meat and potatoes. All right. Let's add a little bit. I'm going to go back in this twilight. This is a gorgeous color, and it's a very strong color. So I'm just getting a hint of that. And whoa, see how strong it is. I don't want near that much. So I'm just going to create some dimension with that. And I'm using the toe of my brush just to kind of pull it up and create a little bit of dimension without actually putting any heavy paint on it. Still pulling it out of this little puddle up here that I got into the first time. I'm going to turn this around a little bit so I can start getting a little bit on that. This is maybe like a shadow color. So it's going to be in the deeper, darker recesses. Purple and green work real well together. Purple and yellow are probably the least of friends, but purple works well with. And this is Twilight again. This is not the Cherry Merlot. Just kind of poking that paint down in there so I can see how these leaves are starting to evolve. I just think that is so cool. Let's put a little bit of that in here. I can get a little bit of that Cherry Merlot too. I like that deeper, darker color. I can bump it right up to that berry, and it just really starts to make all that recesses back in there just a little bit more interesting. Now I am going to put a leaf right here, but I don't want to do that until everything is in place because I want that to be on top of. And I think that it's easier to paint it on top than to try to paint around it. Just going to put a little bit of this. Little dab here, a little dab there. You get some beautiful colors if you just play. Just a little bit. You don't need much. I definitely want to kind of make around the berries just a little bit more recessed. So I can add more color in there. That twilight is absolutely a powerhouse. I'm telling you. Get some of that. This is Mystic Teal. I'm just going to bring some of that in here on this leaf. These leaves over here, I want those to be just a little bit. Kind of doing it backwards. My veins are going down instead of in, so I'm just going to change that around. Little touches of paint. Oh my gosh, what a difference. So my leaves are really starting to stand out. They definitely look like leaves. I'm going to go back to these. I dub them tea berries. They're not really tea berries because they don't quite look like this, but picking up some of that twilight. Going to deepen the shading around the berries just a little bit more. Kind of got outside the lines here, so I'm just going to tuck some of that in just to kind of mute that color in there just a little bit more. I'm using the toe of my angle almost as a liner brush. It's just a super good way to hone in on a little finer detail. Just not real sure about this. It's so strong, that color I put on there. Because my paint is so thin, I can go in and easily move it and mute it even after it may appear a little bit dry. I've not dried anything yet, so just adding those darker values in with very loose paint. And I can put a little more on. Shading, just not a pretty. I mean, these colors are beautiful. I hope that you take time to just kind of play. And it might turn out awful, but then again, what if it doesn't? You've created a masterpiece. I really had no intentions. I really thought I was going to just play with the colors to see what they were like, because you know some colors are very transparent or translucent, and you don't know until you start to use them how they're actually going to lay in over top of other colors. This twilight is definitely a powerhouse color. I want a little shading under there. I want this leaf to kind of be behind, so I'm going to put some darker colors on there. And all of these colors work well together. I kind of like the way it's looking. I want to put a little bit of a stem on these berries, and if you mix color wheel opposites, so if I take purple and I mix it with a little bit of yellow, I'm going to get a really nice kind of a brown color. I could do the red and the green as well, but it creates different shades of brown. So I can put my little stems in there. Wherever. And there's going to be a leaf there, so we'll just leave that as is. This one's a little bit stronger than I want it. So I'm just going to take a paper towel and lift some of that heavy paint off of there. Okay, so we kind of have the bones, the layout. It's not real neat and tidy. However, we're going to do some fun things. And I'm going to use a palette knife. These are the inexpensive plastic knives. And if I were oil painting, I prefer a metal palette knife. But because I'm using acrylics from a bottle, they're a little bit of a thinner paint. A stiff palette knife does not work that well. So I'm going to just use this. When you stroke on paint, you're going to get a texture result according to how much paint and how thick it is on your palette knife. I don't want a solid blob, so I'm just going to take the toe of my brush or my palette knife, pull it out. It almost looks like there's nothing on my palette knife. But I'm just going to, isn't that gorgeous? I'm telling you, I love doing this. That's probably a little heavier. If I want to, I go on the edge of the palette knife. I can do some scratchy marks, pull in a little bit more, just stay on the toe of that. Can beef up some highlights on I'm just using the toe. I'm not really, and I'm bending it down and kind of pushing it in.
Mary Jane says that she's glad to see you doing a painting using these colors. They're so bright and vibrant.
Aren't they gorgeous, Mary Jane? These are just a beautiful selection of colors.
Lucinda said, who knew that the tea berry would turn out to be such a beautiful color?
I know, it does not surprise me. It is a gorgeous color. Look how this is starting to ramp up now. I'm going to put just a little over here. This leaf is so green. I don't particularly care for that, but hey, there's nothing we can't fix, right? And I pull it back and forth the way I want it to go.
And that is using Baby Duck.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. And a little bit on there. We got to have something up here. This poor leaf is just don't want him to be left out. I can go in with a little bit of that, and I can highlight that stem just a little bit. And I'm just using the very edge of this one's not going to have much on it. Very edge of the knife. Let's pull some of that red back in here. I think that red is absolutely gorgeous. Tea berry, sorry, let me get these right. You didn't correct me, Lindsay.
I knew you'd get it.
If your paint starts to dry on your palette, you're not going to get much of a result from using the palette knife. You need damp paint. Kind of using a seesaw motion. I think I need a new puddle of paint here to kind of get that jaggedy edge. And if there's too much yellow, I can lay this over top of it and kind of mute it down. Look what a difference that makes. It's really starting to get pretty. I know I had my doubts in the beginning, and when I did the other little piece, I thought, oh, I don't know about this. And I thought, you know what? What's it going to hurt to just keep going? So perseverance and just see where it gets you, what the result's going to be, because you will often be surprised. You get that stage where it's kind of ugly duckling. I have fun with a palette knife. I just think it's such a great way to add texture And you can't get that kind of texture with a paintbrush, right? Okay, let's go into the Cherry Merlot. And let's just put a little bit in the background. Right? Just for fun. What a difference just that little bit of paint can make. And then I thought there needed to be just a little more action in the background. So I was getting kind of carried away with the palette knife, and I thought, what would happen if we just put some like little bits of motion in the background, just to pull that out just a little bit. You don't want to get too carried away. I don't want to create a starburst, but over here where it's a little bit more subtle and a little bit darker, I'm going to go back into that Cherry Merlot. I don't want to bring the red around into the more shadowed areas. So I can just do a little bit, and I probably still have a little bit of red on my palette knife. And again, I'm just pulling it through on the side edge. It's just fun to have that little bit of motion. Just want to put a little bit out there. Now, if I don't like something in particular, I'm going to wipe my palette knife off. I think that's just a little bit too heavy. I'm just going to smoosh it around a little bit. You can smoosh with a palette knife too. I can even go in if I want and lift it out. I'm just going to put a little bit down here because that little corner seemed kind of quiet. I can go in with a little bit of Mystic Teal. Add a little bit in here just to add a little more color to the leaves. Besides, we have New Leaf, and then I went in with a little bit of the yellow and the Baby Duck and Tea Berry. Just adding some little bit of stronger color. I just like a little bit makes such a big difference. The empty spot in the middle. You know, one thing I don't like is this yellow right here. This bright, bright yellow. Just going to pick up a little bit of that Cherry Merlot, soften it down a touch.
Linda O'Connell says hi.
Hi, Linda. Do you use a palette knife? Linda does some gorgeous, well, everything she does is gorgeous, but she's very creative. Just want a leaf right there. And I'll let that dry.
Linda says no, but I need to.
You do. You would have so much. I can see you having fun with this. A palette knife is a little bit unpredictable. It's very controllable, but you can end up with some really unusual effects. And if you're nervous about that, it could be a little intimidating. So I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to add some shading on this leaf, kind of do what we did before. Put some of that. A little bit of.
Linda says she's coming to Ohio to play with you.
Oh, couldn't we have fun? Okay, this leaf is a little bit too high. So I'm just going to move it down a touch. And I have the most wonderful tool. my Mono Zero eraser. I'm just going to move it down. I dampen it. It is traditionally an eraser, but if you dampen it, it will remove dry paint. So I'm just going to move this leaf down a little bit. Okay, we'll just, don't let anything throw you off because everything can be fixed. I don't want it that high, so I'm just going to go back here with some little bit of red. I don't want tea berry. Thank you, Lindsay. It's going to keep me on my toes. Put some of that leaf right. I want it over top, but I don't want it to cover up all that really wonderful colors that I just laid in. This new leaf is a little bit more saturated and a stronger color than foliage green. Baby duck is a little bit brighter and I'm going to say a cleaner yellow than moon yellow. Salted caramel is a richer, stronger color than, is it marigold?
I was thinking honey brown, but
It's, yeah, honey brown. It's brighter than honey brown. Mystic teal is richer than mermaid tail. Stormy is just, I don't think there's another color just like stormy. I thought maybe Twilight was,
maybe crisp blue.
it's much richer than crisp blue. I thought Twilight may be similar to phthalo blue, but that leans a little bit to the translucent. This thing is just like a powerful color. Cherry Merlot is kind of a mix between red violet and black cherry. It's just a gorgeous color. Okay, let's.
Darlene asked if we had any examples of the subscription box. And we don't, because this is the first time we've done it. But
Drum roll, please.
On Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern, Jen and I will be live unveiling the first box because they all ship Thursday.
Oh.
So if you want to see what is in the first box, tune in 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be on both the YouTube and the Facebook to give you a preview of what's in there. And each box will differ based on theme. So
each shipment.
So this box will be one theme, your first box, and then the next shipment, that box will be a different theme. But I can't tell you what the themes are.
No.
Because Jen will get mad at me.
We don't want Jen mad. Okay, let's get a little bit of blue in there. This leaf ended up being a little bit skinny, so I'm going to widen it up. A lot of color in here, and let's just go ahead and add some.
Jen said, that's right. It's a secret till Thursday.
Now, stay tuned because you're going to really enjoy seeing the unveiling of the first shipment.
I think you're going to love the ornaments. I really do. These ornaments are very different.
Very different from what we've ever done before.
Yeah.
And let's put a little, I'm just fiddling with color. And you're not finished until you're finished. So if you look at it and you think, oh, I need a little more shading, because I did such a light layering of color, I can go back and add more shading. I can go back and ramp up my highlights, and I didn't use white at all so far. However, I'm going to go in with just a touch of white.
You're kind of off camera.
Kind of.
Just a smidge.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. I don't have much on my palette knife because I don't want a big dark spot. So you can tell I just do a little bit. I can always go back and get more. Okay. All right, so maybe these still look a little rough. So I'm going to go back. This one is just kind of bothering me. It's really red and really strong. I'm just going to add one little thing on there. So this is a number 8 micron pen, and I can just go in here and I used number 8 because I thought it would show up more on camera. On the one I did at home, I think it was a 5 or a 3. It wasn't nearly as strong. And I'm not going to worry about exact lines. I just want to kind of separate everything out. And I'm doing this also very loose. And once I lay the colors in, if I feel like I need to go back and maybe add a touch more here and there, I can do that very easily even after I've outlined it. It's just so much fun to play around with this. And you can be as loose or as detailed with the pen work as you prefer. I know some people, messy strokes kind of drive them crazy. I like that looseness of it. I think it really is a little more artistic. My cherries, my tea berries, whatever they are a little bit not perfect around the edges, but once I add that pen work in, I'm happy with that. And because I'm not going solidly all around the edge, I can do, instead of doing like a perfect circle, I can go back and just do it a few times, and I don't have to be that detailed and precise. I can do that part, I can do that part, and then I can go over here and add that. Don't get messy, but you know, it just adds so much interest. I'm going to wait and do that one last because I think it's still a little bit wet. And you will ruin your micron pen if you get paint on the tip and it's not quite dry yet. This technique is not for everyone, but I tell you what, if you just want to have a playtime and just kind of do something totally different and maybe out of your comfort zone, this is such a great way to just kind of, I think, just be creative. So let me know if you like this style, because this is kind of something I've not done with you guys yet, and I really enjoy it. And here it was kind of nondescript, and by adding the pen work in there, all of a sudden, you know, it divides it out and it makes sense. Where this leaf was, I wasn't real sure that I had it up too high. Now it really is starting to work, and it divides it out from the berries over there. And when I look at this, I've got that tape on the back. When I look at this, I can definitely tell this one has not been outlined because it looks kind of unfinished.
Darlene asked if the painting box would be appropriate for a beginner. And I was halfway to answering her and the keyboard died. So, so there's going to be two different patterns in it. One is one of Chris's. It'll be designs for each of the 5 ornaments on there. And then there's another one that we're coining semi-pro. And that is either going to be done by Jen or myself. We are not professional painters. We actually have learned since working here, absorbing everything Chris does and painting that way. And painting our own way, I should say, because we don't. I paint with only angle brushes. I think Jen does too, but and there'll be another pattern in there that's more basic. So yeah, I think this box would be perfect for any level.
And you know what would be really fun is to have a friend, and you could paint, you know, the more detailed, and your friend could paint if she's just a beginner painter or granddaughter or niece, nephew, whatever. It's something that is not intimidating. Anyone can do. And Lindsay has a new battery, so we're good to go.
First world problem.
Okay, so I'm kind of finished painting, but I wanted to add just a little more in the background to kind of pull it all together. I think I just need a little bit more highlight. That white, when it dries, it always dries just a little bit less strong, so I can go back and add just a little bit more. I wanted those to really shine, and they do. But I want to splatter this, and what this will do, it helps kind of pull everything together, makes it a little, provides a little more continuity. Going in with a darker color, and I'm using the Twilight. My splatter brush, I've just got a little bit on the tip, and I'm tapping it on the palette so that I have just loose paint on it, holding it in my left hand, aiming it down, and I'll just flip the clean part of the bristles, and I get this wonderful little splatter. The thinner the paint, the bigger the splatters. What I like about this splatter brush, I can pretty much hone in to where I want it to go. So if I want it heavier up here, and I think this really sets it off. I wasn't real crazy about getting it on the berries as much. If I get some on there, that's okay. I don't want it on my highlight, so I'm just going to lift it off right there.
Suchetta says, it looks so beautiful.
You know, it's kind of beautiful in an ugly way because it's not what traditional toe painting with everything smooth and perfect. Thank you, Suchetta. I hope you give it a try because it really is a different approach to creating. I'm going to put just a little bit of shadow down there.
Mary Jane says, it's always fun to do something different and just enjoy it.
Yes. And because you don't have a tremendous amount of time vested in it, it can be a playtime in of itself. And if you create something gorgeous, then you're like, oh, I'm so good. But allow your brain to just be free and create, and you'd be surprised at what will happen. I did do a little bit of the teal, mystic teal splatters, just for a little variety. I don't want to get too overboard with splatters because then you can lose your focus. So I just want to get a little bit. I always test on my palette. Just want to add that much. I just added a little bit up in the corners. What that's going to do is pull these greens up in these other areas. And then I'm going to get brave.
Mary Jane said, just let it go.
Let It Go. You got that right.
I'm not going to tell you what song just popped in my
No, I know what song popped in your head. These guys sing all day long. They know every word to every song. Honest to goodness. If you ever play a trivia game and need a partner, either one of these girls would be. Although I think Jen says she makes a lot of the words up that she sings.
She does.
But she never misses a beat. Okay, I've got white. And I wanted to just break up the darkness in here a little bit, not a lot. And I think I'll add some up here.
So with the exception of the Snow White, you used only the 8 colors.
Yeah. And when you go to highlight, you need a strong highlight. You just do. Okay, if I get too much white in there, it's going to look like snow. I don't want that. I can always go back with my mister and kind of mist it, and it's going to soften those splatters out a little bit. If you're not familiar with a distress sprayer and think any sprayer will work, this is my explanation. When you spray with a regular spray bottle, it kind of goes, and you get this volume of paint. When you spray with a distress sprayer, it's a mist, and it goes, so you just get this fine mist. So if you want to spray your surface to keep more open time, these are great. Sometimes with the sprayer, you have little control and you lose that you don't have control over the amount of paint, and then you lose your saturation.
And the nice thing about it is if you barely touch the trigger, you can get big droplets of water if you need it. Like if you're doing mixed media.
On this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You barely touch the trigger, you can get big droplets.
Okay. I have a great big one over here. It's gonna go. I just touch it and I'm going to soften the saturation. So if you get places you're not real crazy about, I can just lightly touch it. It's had a bit to dry. I'm not going to wipe it, move it, try to lift it off, just barely touch it, and it will create that more of a muted effect. So these are the DecoArt new colors, and a fun technique. It's called playing with paint, and I hope you picked up some inspiration and some encouragement to play. If you don't have the new DecoArt colors, I don't think there's any one of them that I would say, it's okay, but I think every one of these colors is absolutely gorgeous, and I will be using them a lot. There are colors that are similar, but boy, these are just so saturated and so rich and so strong in color that I think that it'll be a color that you constantly go back and use over and over. So with that, keeping that in mind, is there anything that you would like me to hone in on? I'd like to really focus on techniques, and I thought I would bring in the palette knife and just the loose style painting, because if you're ever in a creative slump, this is a good way to just kind of get brave and forge ahead, and it kind of breaks you out of that if you're painting the same thing over and over and over and just want something. It's like a little mini vacation, my painting vacation, and you can create some really unique results. And a palette knife is great to work with, a splatter brush. Those are always good tools to add that unexpected element in a design that's going to be very impressive, and it creates a powerful result. Okay, Lindsay, what else do we have to talk about? If you've not checked out my YouTube channel, if you missed this video, I guess you'll know when you watch it. But all of my videos are available for replay on YouTube. Create with Chris is our cover distributing YouTube channel. Lindsay and Jen are also creating videos with stenciling, which are really fun. And again, that's a project that you could do in an afternoon if you're looking for a great gift. Actually, Lindsay, we create all of our own stencils here at Cover Distributing. So let me pop down
Go
here.
back.
Yeah. Ooh, I should move this out of the way here. We create all of our stencils at DecoArt Distributing, so you can go in and find probably something for every occasion. Jen and Lindsay are doing projects that are like behind me that are really great for home decor gifts, door wreaths, and projects to do with people.
It should be said too, the CD Stencil site, if you sign up to get the newsletter, it is a separate site from DecoArt Distributing. You can get all the stencils on the DecoArt Distributing site. But if you go to the CD Stencil site, you sign up for the newsletter, it'll give you a coupon.
Oh, there you go. So if you want to save money, go to the CD Stencils website. And we sell on this CD Stencils website stencils and stencil brushes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Again, all of my videos, this is the one I just released last week. This was so much fun. This is another technique, and I used a lace stencil and created some interesting, used interesting stroke work to create the flowers and the apples and all of the background on the window. Don't forget my brushes. They are available at cdwood.com. And these are really nice brushes. I worked a long time to get brushes that exactly like I wanted them. And they are workhorse brushes. They're excellent quality. And I think you'll be thrilled with them.
And the line will be expanding further this year.
Yeah, we have some new ones on the horizon that should be here within a few months. Yeah. So, is that it, Lindsay?
I think so.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
Okay.
We will be back in 2 weeks live with another technique tutorial, I guess you call
Yes.
it. So 2 weeks from today, we will be back. Should be around 1 o'clock Eastern. That's what time we like to try and do them. Next Tuesday, we will have a pre-recorded Create with Chris.
Yes.
Will be up next Tuesday.
And I do have my ears on, so if you want me to do anything in particular, I appreciate suggestions. And I'd like to hopefully help you guys out if there's something you're struggling with. Maybe others are as well. And we can work on something like that. That's always something I'm looking forward to. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Ring the bell. That helps me out. And you can also, if you subscribe, you get notices of upcoming videos, so you won't miss out on any of those. Anything else, Lindsay?
No.
Okay. Well, again, I hope you had fun creating this. Tea berries with all the beautiful new DecoArt colors. And I thank you for joining me today, and we look forward to our next painting adventure together. And remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. Bye-bye.